Chapter 4. Talk. She was hidden behind a large tower of books when he found her. It was surprising, really, how in just 5 minutes she had built a fortress of books to protect her. He wanted to ask what was wrong, to see if she was okay, but that wasn't the type of person he was, nor was that the type of relationship they had. They spoke to each other through insults and teasing, so that was exactly what he planned on doing. "No snappy comeback for the weasel, Granger?" he asked, making his presence known. "Leave me alone, Malfoy. I really don't feel like dealing with you right now." He ignored her, of course, and sat down beside her. She groaned in annoyance when he grabbed the first book he saw and pretended to flip through it. She could have strangled him right then and there for being an irritating git, but decided to glare at him instead. No need to go to Azkaban because of him. He felt her eyes bore into him and smirked. "Take a picture, Granger. It'll last longer." She rolled her eyes, then gave him a critical look. "Why would I want a picture of you?" He grinned evilly. "Same reason why you would kiss me, I suppose." As if on cue, Hermione's cheeks burned in crimson red. I didn't do it on purpose," she nearly shouted, causing Madame Pince to shh her. "Sorry, Professor," she squeaked sheepishly, then turned back to Draco with an annoyed glare. "I only did that to escape, and you know it." Draco chuckled. "Sure you did. You know, I always knew you were secretly in love with me, Granger." She let out a gagging sound. "What?" "Not that I could blame you. I'm one handsome devil." Her lips twitched with amusement. "As if. And if I remember correctly, Malfoy, you kissed me back. Perhaps you're the one who has the crush." He didn't deny it, and that alone made Hermione's stomach flip. Instead, his lips formed into an amused smile. "Perhaps you're right, Granger," he thought. They fell back into silence, Hermione reading and Draco pretending to read, while in reality he was losing his mind. What was it about her that made him act like this? He wasn't the type of person to comfort people, yet here he was trying to make her smile. He wasn't the type of person to deal with affection, yet he nearly blurted out his feelings just from her smile. What the hell was wrong with him? What did that weasel product do to him? Why was he captivated? When did it happen? He wished he knew. 1 minute he's teasing her simply because he thought she was inferior. The next he's teasing her, but only because it's the only way to get her to talk to him. He shook his head to clear it. Blimey, perhaps that bloody enchantment affected me more than I thought. "Malfoy?" "What is it, Granger? I'm trying to read," he quickly spoke. She rolled her eyes again, a trait she seemed to only do when he was around. "I was only going to say thanks for coming after me, but if you're going to be an ass about it, forget it." Hermione spoke up. It was his turn to give her a critical look. "You're thanking me? Sworn enemies of all Gryffindors and Muggleborns?" She shrugged and nodded. He felt his cheeks get warm, so he turned his face away. "Yeah, well, don't expect it to happen again," he huffed. "Honestly, Granger, I don't know why you let that weasel rile you up. And if you tell anyone, I'll deny it. I do have a reputation to uphold." She giggled and then stood up. She started to pack her stuff, shrinking several books and shoving them into her bag. Yeah, see you in common room," she beamed at him, as if they were acquainted, or worse, friends. Hermione sat in front of the fireplace after entering the Head-Dorns. She was feeling much better, and she couldn't help the smile that had permanently etched itself into her lips. Who would have thought, of all people, Malfoy had made her feel better? She had to admit she was a bit skeptical when he first came and talked to her, but now she knew. Malfoy isn't as bad as he liked everyone to believe. She laughed at herself. Did she really think that? The boy who had tormented her and her friends for years, not that bad? Maybe the war had changed him. It sure did change her. Could he have had a change of heart? She shook her head. The side effects of the enchantment must be messing with both of them. She rubbed her eyes tiredly and laid down on the couch. It had to be a side effect, because there was no way that the two of them would get along. let alone become friends? Chapter 5. Revenge. The next day, Hermione successfully avoided Ron and Harry. She felt bad about avoiding Harry. He had seemed calmed about the whole situation, but when her and Ron got into a fight, Harry always had a hard time choosing between the two, and often unintentionally ended up on Ron's side. Not that it bothered her much. He and Ron have had been friends the moment they first stepped into the Hogwarts Express. Besides, Ginny had taken her side, which meant that Ginny was mad at Harry. Honestly, it was all a big headache. She just didn't want to deal with any of them. She skipped lunch and headed to the common room for a bit of light reading. Hopefully, it would help her clear her mind. Hermione walked down the corridor and passed a group of Hufflepuff girls. They were whispering amongst themselves, giggling until they spotted her. They abruptly stopped and stared as she walked towards her dorm. As she passed them, they started laughing again. "Bet she's off to shag Malfoy," she heard one of them whisper, the others cackling around her. "Wouldn't be surprised," another giggled. "Who knew Granger was a slag?" Her hand clenched into a fist and trembled in anger. How could they even think she would do something like that? She kissed Draco. Kiss, not shag. There was a fine line between the two. She groaned in annoyance and muttered, "Dragon dots." The portrait slid open and Hermione slipped in. It's like fourth year all over again, except the entire Hogwarts student body was Rita Skeeter, she thought as she stormed to her usual chair and plopped down, oblivious to the blonde who sat on the couch. She grumbled under her breath, cursing the person who set up the enchantment. Draco, who sat with a small cup of tea in his hand, smirked at her rage. "Something wrong, Ranger?" He took a sip, waiting for her to answer. "Yes, apparently we're shagging." There was a series of choking sounds, followed by wheezing. Hermione turned around just in time to see Malfoy clear his throat. "What?" She rolled her eyes. "Everyone thinks we're shagging now." She put her head in her hands. "It was a stupid kiss. One kiss and everything gets blown out of proportion. I'm so sick and tired of the rumors." "Well, this is Hogwarts," he mused. Her lips twitched in amusement. "You're right. I know." She rolled her eyes. "You know what I do when someone gets me angry, Granger?" he asked. "Pick on a first year, start rumors about Harry, pick fights with Ron, piss me off, abuse your power as head boy, and take points from other houses." He cut her off. "Besides that, Granger." "What?" "I get even," he answered, a mischievous smile tugging on his lips. "How Slytherin of you." He ignored her last comment and pressed on. "So what do you say, Granger?" "I'm not going to hex everyone who—" He cut her off once again. "Not everyone, just the person who put the enchantment over us. And I have something far worse than hexing. After all, it's their fault the rumor started. You know my fellow Slytherins think you tied me down, that I've entered a relationship and I am now whipped? It's definitely messing with my reputation," he sighed dramatically. "Aw, you poor thing," she said sarcastically. "It's also their fault you're fighting with Tweedledee and Tweedledum," he shot back. She glared at him for insulting her two best friends, but couldn't help being surprised by his muggle comparison. "No, it's not right," he shrugged. "Fine, have it your way." They fell into a comfortable silence, Hermione reading and Draco watching the fire. The following week, Hermione figured that things would die down and everything would go back to being normal. She was wrong. If anything, it got worse. McGonagall had questioned her ability to continue being head girl. Harry and Ron still ignored her, and Pansy had a field day spreading rumors that weren't even remotely true. The only good thing that had seemed to come out of it was that her and Malfoy, Draco, had gotten closer and were now pretty good friends. He had apologized for his younger self and they had a heart-to-heart talk about the war. After that, she found out he was easy to talk to. He was also suffering from the enchantment. At least he said he was. She doubted it though. By the time December came around, Hermione had had enough. Her life was a living hell because someone had pulled a prank and she wanted to get even. A part of her would feel guilty, but another part of her simply didn't care. She met Malfoy in the library at their usual spot and slammed her books down and huffed. "All right," she grumbled. "I'm in." He gave her a questioning look. "You're in what?" "I'm in. Let's get revenge." His lips turned into a devious smirk. "How Slytherin of you, Granger."